Fellow Ghanaians, good morning. There's something very strange happening in this country, something that challenges every basic economic principle that those of us who learned economics were taught. Something that makes you wonder whether this country operates on a different planet with its own laws of gravity, its own logic of demand and supply, its own mysterious version of economic that makes it makes sense nowhere else but only in Ghana. Because inflation has fallen for the 11th straight month. Just last week, the Ghana Statistical Service told us that inflation had landed at 6.3% in November, last month I should say, a figure that we have not seen before in years, a figure that ordinarily should bring relief, stability, and even a little joy. And yet, when you step into the real world, Makola, Kaneshi, Kumasi Central Market, Abossey Okai, the spare parts lanes, into the provision shops that keeps the average household alive, into the corners where the real Ghanaian economy lives, you will realize that nothing, absolutely nothing, reflects the so-called easing of inflation that we've been told. Because what we have, fellow Ghanaians, is an absurdity, a contradiction, a national puzzle that defies the textbooks. The cedi has been strengthening for months. Yes, strengthening convincingly, consistently, and publicly. Inflation is falling month after month. Fuel prices have been stabilized. In fact, we've reduced it from almost 16, 17 to what we have now. Shipping costs is going down. And yet the prices of goods in Ghana move in only one direction, up, and further up. As if it's been possessed by some spiritual commandment that says the cedi must only go up. And again, no matter what happens to the fundamentals, it seems it doesn't matter. You would think that with the cedi performing well, imported goods would at least hold the prices, if not decline. But go through Abossey Okai and ask for brake parts, shock absorbers, clutches, alternators, radiators, or even the small electrical components that people buy every day. And the traders will tell you, without blinking, that the price has gone up again, sometimes by 10%, sometimes 20%, and a lot more. It is all as though that we are following a private inflation calendar that is known only to those traders. Go to Kumasi Magazine and ask the artisans why the cost of services has gone up. And they will point to you too vaguely a system, the amorphous, all-purpose explanation for every economic anomaly. And then go to Makola, even for the most basic household items, rice, sugar, cooking oil, tin tomatoes, gari, sardines. And you find that even though inflation is supposedly falling, the prices are dancing upwards, as if in defense or in defiance of logic. And this, fellow Ghanaians, is where the problem is. Our economic paradigm has become completely detached from the rules of economics, detached to the extent of absurdity, detached to the point where you begin to question whether the problem is economics or human behavior. Whether the system is broken or the conscience of the market is that which is rather broken. Because what we are experiencing is not inflation. It is not exchange rate fallout. It is not imported misfortune. It is profiteering, plain and simple. It is a deliberate refusal by some traders and suppliers to adjust their prices downwards even when the conditions that justify the earlier increases are no longer existent. Nobody is saying that traders must operate at a loss. We don't expect spare part dealers to collapse their businesses for charity's sake. And nobody expects a market woman to cut her margins in half. But what we cannot accept is a system where prices only rise and never fall, where every trader behaves like an island, where every shop owner creates their own inflation rate, where every increase is justified, but a decrease is resisted, where the consumer is treated as captive who must simply accept whatever price is quoted because a system, no. This cannot continue because what is the point of a strengthening cedi if it brings no relief to the citizens? What is the point of falling inflation if the average household still cannot feel it? What is the point of macroeconomic stability if it never translates into microeconomic sanity? Fellow Ghanaians, something must give, something must change, something must shift, and it must shift now. We cannot build a fair society where consumers are always at the mercy of unregulated pricing behaviors that have no relationship with cost structures. We cannot claim to be building a stable economy when the lived experience of the citizen is economic turbulence day after day, And we cannot continue to watch on as traders who benefit from the weaker cedi or actually the stronger cedi refuse to pass on the benefit to the consumer. The truth is the market must also do right by the people. You cannot keep reaping windfalls when things are difficult, only to keep the same windfalls when things get better. You cannot take advantage of every exchange rate spike, only to ignore every exchange rate gain. You cannot base prices on the dollar when the dollar rises, but then suddenly forget about that when the dollar is falling. This behavior destroys confidence, it destroys fairness, and destroys the very social contract that keeps markets functioning. Fellow Ghanaians, the real economy is not a spreadsheet in Accra. It is the daily hustle of ordinary people trying to survive. The falling inflation figures mean nothing if a mother still has to cut down meals because food is too expensive. They mean nothing if a taxi driver cannot afford spare parts for his vehicle. They mean nothing if a teacher's salary is wiped out halfway through the month. They mean nothing if the shopkeeper keeps increasing prices because she assumes everyone else will do the same. Yes, the government must continue stabilizing the fundamentals, but traders, wholesalers, importers, and distributors must also look inward and act with fairness. A market without conscience becomes exploitation, and a market without responsibility becomes oppression. A market without empathy becomes a danger to the society it is meant to serve. Fellow Ghanaians, we cannot keep living in an economy where prices rise like escalators and then fall like feathers. We cannot continue accepting that the consumer must suffer endlessly while others profit endlessly. We cannot keep normalizing a marketplace that behaves like a lawless jungle in which those with the power pricing down those without alternatives. No economy can thrive on that path. It is time for traders to be fair. It is time for regulators to be active. And it's time for the government to ensure transparency. It is time for consumers to speak up. Because if inflation is falling and the cedi is rising and prices are still going up, then something is fundamentally wrong. It is not economics. It is behavior of those who are serving the people. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.